Hey everyone, Josh Martinez here at TradersAgency.com. I have my really great friend here, Troy Noonan, the original backpack trader. And essentially we're just going to have a conversation with each other and we're going to discover how he got started, where did that name come from, and basically how is he able to do what he's doing inside of the investment market and still live the life that he's living. So Troy, always a pleasure to be with you. And where did the name Backpack Trader come from?
Well, yeah, that's great. So for me, the backpack trader is a symbol. It's a way of symbolizing why we trade in the first place. Mm-hmm. Because I find that what gives traders the most problems is that when you really drill down, they don't know why they're trading, and that's what causes them to do all these things they shouldn't do. That's destructive and what causes losses. Right. And so that's like the core of what I teach people. And it came from my own realization that the reason I trade is for absolute freedom. It's to just be able to call my own shots in life. And so the backpack trader is symbolism. It's a symbolic image that tells you why you're trading in the first place. So whether you're trading from the Siberian Express or your own sofa or anywhere in between, everyone should become their own best version of the backpack trader. And that is where the name came from, along with my own personal story, which I guess I'll tell you about shortly.
Well, what is it? What is the personal story?
Well, back in the early 90s when I started trading, when paper charts would come into the mail and I'd fetch them from the mailbox eagerly and open up the Wall Street Journal and fill in the rest of the bars for the rest of the week. In those days, I was just learning how to trade. And I unwittingly noticed a Head and Shoulders pattern, not the shampoo, an actual pattern on a piece of paper on a chart, and shorted the British pound against the dollar. Not knowing that it was a major historic event that was about to happen, the very same trade that George Soros made, where he broke the Bank of England. Wow. He made billions of dollars. I took my few $1,000s that I made and basically backpacked through Western Europe for the next 3.5, 4 months. And that's when I first discovered what trading can give you as far as freedom goes. Wow. And I play drums. So as I was traveling through Europe, I picked up a set of bongos and I started sitting in with street musicians all over Europe.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It was an amazing experience. It was absolute freedom because I might have been turning right and then 5 minutes later I was going left. And I mean, it led to an incredible adventure. But I ended up meeting this Venezuelan musician on Ponte Vecchio in Italy. And there's a funny story about that. Maybe I'll tell it sometime. But ultimately, we would go into bars and play for free beer around Italy. And so, we went our separate ways. And about a year later, I received a fax from him in San Francisco. You remember what faxes are? Yeah. Ancient technology. It's like smoke signals. Anyway, he invited me to Caracas, Venezuela to hang out with him and his band and study Venezuelan rhythms. And so that all came out of this backpacking trip that came out of the trade. So I went to Venezuela, and another long story, which maybe I'll tell sometime, I ended up meeting the woman that I've been married to now for 24 years. Wow. So the long and short of it is George Soros made his billions. I made a great wife and a happy family. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's the backpack trader origins.
So what market do you trade? There's multiple markets.
Right.
What do you do?
I like trading crude oil futures for the most part right now. Okay. I mean, there's lots of great markets to trade. I do some Forex trading. I love trading the E-minis too. But what I've realized is that I just believe in getting in, getting out, and getting done. That's a phrase that I learned actually from the owner of NetPicks, who I used to work for. And that was our motto, because the whole idea, and this fits into the backpack trader, is to trade less and live more. Mm-hmm. And so for me, crude oil, I can literally do that. It moves quick enough. I got my patterns, my way of trading, where I can literally trade my trade plan and be finished rather quickly, so then I can move away from my charts and get on with the rest of my day.
Now, when you say quickly, can you define that? Because sometimes when somebody will go place a trade, they will spend 3, 4, 5 hours finding that trade, and then they're in and out.
Right.
And then the day's already done.
Yes, and I think a lot of traders do that, and they wonder, how could they? Well, I wonder how could they sustain that like day in and day out every day until you're going to burn out, and ultimately you have to modify your lifestyle for your trading.
Right.
But I'm a big believer that you want to have your trading give you the kind of lifestyle that you want. So I take the reverse approach. So for me, well, let me give you an example. Yesterday, when we arrived, like an hour before you and I met for the first time, I was in a trade with crude oil from my hotel room. And I just trade my trade plan. I have a trade plan that tells me when to start, when to stop, how to trade it, what my goals are. It's dynamically adjusting to market conditions every single day. Mm-hmm. So it's tuning itself bar after bar. It's just what I've learned over the years. And so I'm in this trade. I knew I have to meet you soon. And all of a sudden, I lost my internet. I mean, I'm in this beautiful suite at the Venetian Hotel, and the internet is chimbo. You know what that means? You don't speak Spanish?
No.
Okay, chimbo means, should I give the G rated?
Not good.
Right. Bad.
Right, bad.
Exactly. A 3-letter word. And so I'm in this trade, and now I have no control over it because the internet went down. And I'm like so close to hitting my goals. But here's the thing. I had my bracket order. My trade was managed. The broker had my order. And even though I couldn't really control the trade, the worst case scenario would be it would just go up and stop me out, and that's that. It was controlled.
You had your entry in.
Yeah.
And you already defined your risk.
Yes.
And you already defined your reward.
Absolutely. Every single time.
So even though the internet went out, which is not the ideal scenario.
No. But it happens.
But you had your trade plan.
Yes.
And then basically that took over.
Yes.
Okay.
And so there was one point in the trade I was worried about where if it got to that price point, I could move my stop down to a risk-free position. Okay. And I knew I wouldn't be able to do that because I'm like, well, what do I do? Create a hot spot with my cell phone or what? Right. But by then, all of a sudden, the internet came back. And so right when I was trying to, maybe do some Mickey Mouse solution or whatever, it was over, and I looked and I go, oh, well, I hit my target. So I won. And the thing is here's the thing. What it reinforced is that the more we can remove ourselves from the equation, the better off we are.
That's a good point. That's a solid point. Now, a couple questions to kind of dive into the strategy. When you say you have a trade plan that is updating and it's identifying, is that more like a visual guide? Is it indicators? Is it systems? Or are you technically finding your trades with like trend lines and larger time frames, smaller time frames? So can you kind of just walk us through when you sit down, you open your chart, how do you find a trade fast and create your trade plan fast?
Right. So creating the trade plan isn't fast. Okay. I call it pre-production work. Okay. And it's all done way ahead of time. Okay. So I spend a lot of time creating the trade plan. It requires research, but ultimately there's a trick to it. Here's the thing, and this is what I teach most of the traders that I work with. You want to be able to believe in what you're doing. Right. And you cannot talk yourself into believing in what you're doing, right? Because the markets are they're unruly. You can't control them. So they're going to do what they want. So how do you deal with that? First, you surrender to what you cannot control. You can't control what price action is going to do. Right. So surrender to that. Don't try to do that. Like most traders are always trying to do that. Oh no, it's going up. Maybe I should take my profit. Or it's going down. Oh no, let's move my stop lower because I know it's going to come back again or whatever, right? Don't try to do that stuff. So once you relinquish control or you surrender to what you can't control, you can start to focus on what you can control. And that's the pre-production work. So I'm a big believer that you have to kind of live through the good, the bad, the ugly, the great. The good, the bad, the ugly, the great, over and over again. And yet, despite the ugly, you witness your equity curve going up and up and up and up. And you live through that through a series of exercises. I call it back testing. And it's not the kind where you push a button and automation does all this back testing. That doesn't do you any good. I painstakingly go through every single trade manually, click by click, trade by trade, and I build a log of trades so that I have a win-loss column that I have to live through and experience, so that by the time I get to 100 plus trades, you need 100 trades minimum to get your statistics to kind of start to level out and make sense, right? So I had someone that influenced me that said she would never take a trade if she hadn't had 600 trades in her spreadsheet first. That left an impression on me. I don't think you need 600, but over 100. And so from that, I could build a trade plan. So what I'm testing is an idea where I have a start time, a stop time, a specific set of goals, X amount of trades. Can you quit positive most of your sessions while controlling your drawdown with minimal and efficient trading? That's my motto, that's my goal, and that's what keeps me centered on what I'm trying to create with my pre-production work. And so I've created this trade plan for crude oil. And actually I've got several, but I've broken the day down into 4 mini sessions. And each session has its start time, its X amount of X amount of trades total, 3 at the most. But usually I'm hitting my goal in the first trade. But if not, I'll take a second trade. Maybe I'll take a third, depending on the rules of my plan. And then that's it.
And then these rules you've already tested for over 100 trades.
Well over 100 trades.
So you already know the win-loss expectations.
Yes. Yes. And there's steps in how to do that. There's steps, there's ways to do that properly. But then what I teach my traders is once you've got your trade plan in place, now can you execute it? Like literally, can you execute it without a mistake? See, being a drummer, I brought in some of my learning how to play drum techniques. If you cannot execute your trade plan 25 consecutive trades in a row without a single mistake, then how can you justify risking your money on that trade plan? So you now have to go through the next step of proving you can execute your trade plan. Like, you know it's going to win. You've tested it. You've done this pre-production work. You've built this foundation, and you believe in it now because you did the work. It's not that someone else did it and told you. That never works.
It's interesting you say that because you go through all this work, you find your pattern, you find your strategy, you have over 100 plus trades. You kind of have an understanding of hey, I got a place. My success or failure isn't really going to be my next couple trades. It's going to be following these set of rules over trades and over time. And now the question, which is a very powerful question, is can you actually follow the rules over time? And then you define that. 25 trades.
25 because that's a magic number. So here's how I learned this. I'm a drummer. I've played all my life. I'm embarrassed to tell you how many years because it was before you were born. But if I need to learn a new rhythm, for example, it's like learning how to walk again. You know, I have to put my hands and my feet together. And so first I learn it really slow 1 time. Then I have to do it 2 times, really slow, just to kind of get the feel for how the body's supposed to coordinate itself until I can play that pattern 25 times in a row in tempo without a single mistake. I'm still thinking about doing it. But when I can play it without a mistake 25 in a row in tempo, I never, ever have to think about it again. It's now a part of me. It's a reflex. It's like riding a bike. And I want my traders to be able to trade like that.
That's powerful. That's very powerful. Okay, so let's say that, for example, Monday, and you're saying, okay, I want to place my trades, and I already have my pre-production, which basically I already have my trade plan, I already know my patterns, I know my risk, I know my entries, I know my limits. How long does that process take from start to finish in the execution? Is it an hour? Is it 2 hours? Does it fluctuate?
That same trade I told you about yesterday lasted about 12 minutes.
12 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then once that 12 minutes is done, you don't trade anymore for the day.
It depends because I could do another mini session that starts at another start time.
Okay. Because you have four times a day. You have these mini sessions.
I do 1 or 2 a day.
Okay. And
it just depends on, say I'm busy. I mean, I'll swing trade also. So my swing trading is using the same techniques, but you have to slow it down, but the same idea. But basically, here's the thing. I'm a big believer that you don't have to trade more to make more money. you use Einstein's eighth wonder of the world.
Compounding.
Exactly. So why do you want to work harder if you could just work smarter? If I want to give myself a raise, I just wait till my account grows to a certain level, and then I move my finger from the 1 to the 2.
Right.
There. I've just given myself a raise. Am I working harder? No. Do I have to spend more time with corkscrew eyeballs in front of my computer all the time, all day long? No. I don't want to live like that. I've done that. I've been there. I've done that. You can't sustain that.
Right.
So I'm a big believer that you're trading, you want to treat it like a business, right? So I came out with my ebook, The 12 Powers of Successful Trading, right? Well, you know what the 12th power is? The power of the CEO. You need to be the CEO of your trading business, not the person trying to trade.
How long do you think it takes somebody to make that transition? Because it's very powerful. That's a very powerful statement. But there's a lot of new people who get involved in trading, and it's very exciting.
Yes.
And it's like, well, I have 4 times a day that I can trade. I want to trade all 4 times. And
well, more than that, if they look at the other markets they could trade, right?
Very true.
Yeah.
And so, when do you think a person, or should a person, because it's almost in a manner to where, okay, could you have a new trader who's very excited? Can you say, okay, don't, follow that excitement? Or do you just say, hey, open up a demo account, get all the excitement out, trade all day long until you're blue in the face, and then when you say, hey, I want to be a CEO and treat this like a business, and for the purpose of not trading, but for the purpose of making money, for the purpose of freedom, then put your money into it.
So your question is, how do you steer or guide somebody who's just getting started, that's just really enthusiastic and excited,
and they're like, they're already looking at the planes they're going to buy, and then the cars they're going to drive.
Right. No, I try to temper that because, first of all, I don't want. Well, there's a few real important things that I try to really make them understand. Number one, you're only new once, and you have a great advantage that you can learn things the correct way the first time. Because how hard is it to unlearn bad habits? It's like kills traders.
Right.
A lot of people can't do it. So I want them to start the right way early. I tell people if they're brand new, they have a big advantage because they can learn the proper way.
Right.
I don't want them sim trading because they don't know how. The thing is, back to my drummer examples, I had an old friend of mine, a teacher actually, who used to say, look, you have to practice hard if you're going to play hard. You're going to perform with your band next month or whatever. If you practice like a wimp, you're going to play like a wimp. And the lesson is, you don't want to use your sim account the wrong way because you're just going to develop bad habits.
You're referring to
a simulation, a demo account, right. So I only want them using the simulation account to practice their executions.
Okay.
Like there's a purpose. I want to practice it. I don't care if I win or lose. Can I execute? Can I place trades? Can I cancel trades? Can I place a stop and reversal? Can I cancel a stop and reversal?
Right.
Do I know how to do that, or do I have to always be thinking about it? I want it to be that reflex, right?
Right.
So that's one way to use a simulation account, a demo account. The second reason, or the what's that noise?
I think we're done.
Are we?
Yeah. We got to wait for Josh. We'll see.
Oh.
No. Yeah. It sounds like there's a noise outside.
It's like, man, what is that? We were on a roll there, weren't we?
No, but I still want to hear it.
All right, so the second reason to use a simulation account is to practice running your business. Can you run your trade plan 25 in a row as if you were running your business? Well, what if that takes you 2 months? Like, what if you hit your goals today on the very first trade? Oh, there's the first trade.
Right.
Now you got to wait till tomorrow.
Right.
But is it worth it? I mean, how many businesses can you start that will be profitable like instantly?
Right.
How many?
It's very, very little.
Right. None. Let's just say none because it's an outlier if it happens. Right. So what makes you think that you can instantly be successful with your trading?
Right.
It's like unrealistic, right? So I want to put the expectations in people's minds so that they know right away what is involved. And then they could start doing the things that will get them successful instead of all the other stuff that creates bad habits that causes them to then have to unlearn stuff later. And they've already lost a lot of money because the school of hard knocks. Let's face it, the market's going to slap you around.
Right.
You don't have to learn that way. You can keep your money safe and earn the rights of passage, is what I like to say, to finally put your money on the line and start trading. It's a step-by-step process that you go from one step to the next. And then finally, you're going to know when you're ready, when you got that trade plan and you could execute it perfectly, 25 in a row,
right,
and you already believe in it because you've seen that it will grow your equity. Even though some ugly, it still makes you money. Let's face it. Here's another thing I always ask traders, right? Let's say you win a trade. You're a trader. You won. How do you feel? Did you make money? Most traders say, yeah, I made money. And I'm like, what do you mean? You didn't make any money. What about the next trade? We have to take another trade.
Right.
We're traders, right? We trade, right? So we have to trade.
Yeah.
So do you make money when you've won a trade? Well, okay. What if you lose a trade? Did you lose money? What about the next trade?
Right.
You see?
Yeah.
No one thinks like that. It's the trade plan. If you're trading to make money, if that's your reason for trading, you're the CEO of your trading business, well, it's the sequence of all your trades that determine whether you're making money or not, right? It's like there's always another trade.
Right.
When are you successful? When? When does that happen? Everyone has to define what that is, and
So
it's like any business.
Right. So there's a clear formula, and you're basically saying, look, you're not a winner, you're not a loser with one or two trades. You're not making money, you're not losing money with one or two trades. You're doing this right. Granted, if you're risking your entire account.
And you win and you hit the home run. Hey, I'm rich.
But what you're saying is, in the long, this is a long game, and so you have to follow the rules, stay consistent, follow your trade plan, and you're going to win some, lose some, but you're going to keep adding the equity up.
Right. You're winning more than you lose.
How long have you been doing this?
Well,
Because the way that you're explaining, you can just hear the experience of you working with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And hearing the challenges and almost feeling the challenges, but you have some very, very solid insights.
Okay, so about 16 or 17 years ago, I was in the seat that most people are in, looking for answers, watching the webinars, and I happened upon a company called NetPicks. I became a customer, and I started interacting with other NetPicks customers on one of their forums, and I guess the owners liked what they heard, and I had already been trading for a long time, but this was after my trip to Europe. I had a second trip where I was going in and out of the internet cafes and trading in and out of the internet cafes. That's when the backpack trader was really born. But after that, I still needed like a method. I still was missing all this stuff that I'm telling you about now. I didn't have anyone to teach me this. So one of the owners called me up out of the blue and asked me if, we talked for a little while. He liked what I was saying, and he said, hey, you know what? You really understand this. Would you like to be our first trade coach? We're growing.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I'll think about it. I ended up becoming their first trade coach, but I also started their live trade room and started calling live trades using one of their strategies.
Yeah.
And this is when it all happened because, imagine this. I'd never done it before. And as far as like calling live trades for people that are relying on me calling live trades, right? So here I am 5 minutes before the curtains open on my very first day. And all of a sudden, there's this little voice in my head that just basically said, lean on the system. Because if you interject yourself, and if you try to second guess and go, oh, that doesn't look right, or do this instead, or whatever, and it doesn't work, you're going to look like an idiot. You're going to have egg on your face, and you're going to be the stupidest, most unprofessional idiot. And so, but if you just lean on the system and the trade loses, that's not your fault. At least you did your job, right? It was like the system lost the trade. I had to call the trade.
Right.
And so that saved my butt because that's what I did. And I learned at that very moment the power of the trade plan, the strategy. I didn't understand fully But that was the beginning stages of how I developed these ideas, because every day now I'm calling live trades. Everyone's depending on me. And then I started developing my own ideas, my own trading strategies from that experience.
So how do you educate someone now? So what do you, or if I said, okay, Troy, I want to learn from you. I like what you have to say, because honestly, what you're saying fits my lifestyle. I like the discipline. You understand the psychology side, and you have the experience because you've been doing this a long time to where you could help someone like me. So how does this work?
Okay, so if you come in as someone I'm mentoring, or if you're just buying one of my strategies,
Yeah,
I'm going to treat you the same, basically. It's like, I still do the trade room. So I'm going to invite you into the trade room, first of all, so that you can learn the strategy in real time, ask your questions. But I'm basically going to put you through what I call the Steps to Trading Success Guide. It's a step-by-step guide. And what I tell people is I want you to think of two tracks of learning. One, you're going to learn the strategies, or a strategy, whichever one you're kind of settling in on. And anyone can learn technique, right? It's like painting by numbers, 3, paint green, 4, put blue. Anyone can do that. Yeah. But can you make art out of it, right? Well, can you be a trader? Okay, so the second track is how to become a trader, how to be a successful trader, the Steps to Trading Success Guide. And it starts with a lot of the points we've been talking about. But ultimately, and again, this is back to the old musician trick stuff, but if you think pre-production, the more effort you put into your pre-production, when you go to full production, which is trading live with real money on the line, your chances of success are going to be like, you're going to be better off than 90% of the traders out there versus anyone that skipped the pre-production stuff because they were so enthusiastic, right? Yeah.
Okay, so last question would be, and this is a hard one.
Okay.
It's a hard question to answer.
Okay.
But do you have any sort of guidance on the expectation of how long it takes somebody to find their success?
Yeah, that is a hard question, but it's dynamic. And the beautiful thing is that there's no rush. So people ask me this all the time. Hey, I'm going to spend my money on your strategy. Oh, it's like $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever. Right. When can I start to make my money back? And I'm like, well, the guy who opened up the local dry cleaner down the street when the town just started forming and growing, I mean, he had that same concern, right? He had to pay a lot of money to open the doors to his store. And when was he going to start making money? Was it tomorrow? Was it next week? He had to build his customer base. He had to build his reputation. He had to work hard at it. So it's kind of relative. How hard are you going to work on it? Right? When are you going to get those 25 trades in a row without a single mistake on a trade plan that you've already proven to yourself will grow your equity despite some ugly trading and some ugly sessions? Like how long will that take you to believe in what you're doing and be able to execute it? And then you start trading. Trading is not going to happen by itself. You have to trade. It's going to, how long does that take? So here's how here's a model. And I've done a lot of these webinar trainings in the past about capital growth. So let's just use this as a benchmark in your mind. Let's say you have $20,000 to start trading. All right, maybe you have less, maybe you have more. That's $20,000. And let's say that your goal is to achieve a $10,000 a month income for yourself. Okay? And you're willing to risk 2%, 2% on any given trade, right? So you have $20,000, you're going to risk 2%. You have a trade plan. You can make, your trade plan shows you, after you do your pre-production work, that you can make an average of $50 net profit per trade per contract. All wins and losses, it averages out to $50 net, right, per contract. Mm-hmm. At about 4 or 5 months down the road, maybe sooner, but roughly, you're going to be able to start paying yourself $1,000 a month. Another 2 or 3 months, not as long as it took to get to that first $1,000, but you're going to soon be able to pay yourself $2,000 a month. A couple months after that, maybe you have to go back down to $1,000 again. You might have some drawdown, but then back up to 2 and ultimately to 3. and there's going to be this stair stepping, maybe 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's like the sweet spot. It's pretty normal if you have a winning strategy, right? Let's say you're winning 2/3. If you're winning 2/3 and losing 1/3 and you're making $50 average net profit on every trade when it's all said and done, after the end of the 24th month, you will have achieved a $10,000 a month income and $250,000 in your trading account.
Wow.
That's the numbers. That's how it works. So is that in the perfect world? That would be nice. It doesn't always happen. Maybe you're only making $40. Maybe you're making $25 and you have to do 2 contracts to get the $50. I mean, it's just a guideline. But if you could think in terms of a numbers game, I always try to teach people that imagine a ramp and, or even better yet, a runway with a big jumbo jet lumbering down the runway, trying to pick up enough speed to get off the ground, right? Yeah. And it's starting to bounce a little bit, and then finally it gets some lift under its wings and it gets airborne. And so over time, the nose of that airplane is going to increase and increase and increase, and the faster it increases, right, until the exponential curve kicks in and it becomes a rocket ship. And that's the exponential curve of compounding, right? That's how compounding works. So if you think in terms of that 2-year idea where you can get to that $10,000 a month income and that $250,000 account, 80% of that income comes the last 2 months.
Wow.
20% of the income came in the first 80%, right? The upfront is the hardest part because you're still trying to get that lift under your wings. You're trading small. You're trying to, $50. I mean, come on. You know, I had lunch today. It was more than $50, right? It's like, it's a ham sandwich now.
Right.
But
if you don't give up and you push through and you follow the strategy, you follow the formula.
And you run it like a business.
Run it like a business.
Yes. Know why you're trading.
And then
you hit that exponential curve. When it happens, it happens. And I mean, can you duplicate the trade plan and have a second trade plan? Yeah. But can you execute them both without mistakes?
Right.
Got to practice that. Maybe you want to sprinkle in some swing trading. You know, there's different ways to maybe get there faster. But get the first one done right first, and then you now can work on the second one. You can improve, and you can, a lot depends on how much you want to trade. I mean, for me, I was like, I don't need to trade that much because there's other things in life I prefer to do.
Right. Okay, so the person who's watching this right now, how do they get a hold of you? So if they wanted to reach out to you and say, hey, Troy, can you mentor me? I want to do what you're doing. Can you teach me? How do they find you?
Backpackrader.com. They can send me an email, troy@backpackrader.com. I'm pretty easy to reach because I'm out there. I mean, you can go to my YouTube channel, NetPicks Trading Desk, my YouTube channel. My Facebook page is Facebook.com/TheBackpackTrader.
Well,
so I'm pretty easy to find.
Well, thank you, Troy. Honestly, that was amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Josh.